So again, my name is Jessica Renane, and I want to welcome you to our Navigating Online Sales webinar today. I'm with the Hoosier Young Farmers Coalition, and I'll be your host today to get us started. Before we kick into the presentation, I just wanted to say thank you to our partners at both Purdue and IU, as well as the Northwest Indiana Food Council. We couldn't have done this without their help and their organizing and their insight and their expertise, as well as their marketing to bring folks in. And we also wouldn't be here without a grant from SARE, which allowed us to pull this together and bring all of these great farmers over the next 4 weeks with their expertise to share with you. So we want to thank them as well. We wanted to let you know that we will be recording the session, so folks that weren't able to join us today can watch it after the fact. We'll be hosting it on the Hoosier Young Farmers Coalition website. And we ask that during the presentation, we keep you all, everybody will be on mute just like we are right now, so Julie can do her presentation for us. But then when we're done, we'll have time for questions and answers, and that's when we can unmute and unvideo or turn our videos on and really have a conversation is what we're hoping with the topics that we're going to discuss today. So without further ado, I introduce you to Julie Perkins, and I will let her take her presentation away. Thanks so much, everybody.
All right, thank you. I am going to share my screen with you guys so you can see my presentation here. All right. All right, hopefully everyone can see this. With my screen like this, I cannot see the chat, so I hope someone will let me know if you are unable to see what I'm talking about. All right, so today we're going to be talking about online ordering and marketing. And first I want to just tell you a little bit about my family here. This is Dan Perkins, there's me, and Harper is our oldest. We moved to Perkins, what is now Perkins Good Earth Farm, in 2009 when he was 6 months old. Dan was working full-time off-farm for the Soil Water Conservation District here in Jasper County, and he did that for 10 years. And now, 2020, Dan and I are both full-time on the farm. Dan went full-time last spring. Harper is almost 12, and we've clearly added to our family. So there is just a picture of us. In terms of roles on the farm, Dan does the farming, outside work, and I do the education, communication, and marketing, keep the books, and I am the lead parent. So I'm kind of in charge of the household too, with Dan's help, of course. So here is a picture of our farm. We live on 20 acres total, and 11 of that is woods, and we actually grow on 1.5 acres. We use, you can see the high tunnels, we have 2 cat tunnels, we also have a greenhouse now, and we have field crops. We are primarily known as a CSA farm in our community of DeMott, Indiana, and we are located in Northwest Indiana. Our town's population is around 4,000, but I would say it's like double of that if you include the surrounding areas, you know, the suburbs of our small town. So we have 130 families signed up for our summer CSA. We do spring, summer, and fall CSA. Our goal is to get to 200 families, and we're doing that aiming for about a 10% growth from season to season. So from spring to summer, summer to fall. And if we had known that COVID would happen, we would have increased that number and bought more seeds and planned to prepare more ground and all that, because of the great renewed interest in local food, at least in our area. We also grow wholesale. We primarily have one wholesale client that takes bulk produce, really great to work with. And then we have a couple restaurants that are touch and go, especially right now. We sell garlic as our cash crop, so we sell that as seed to other farmers. We sell it for eating, culinary uses, and we sell black garlic. And then we just started a farm stand last year. Last year we were only open during distribution, CSA distribution, which is primarily on farm. So that was like 4.5 hours a week total that we had our farm stand open. And we renovated the barn. This over here So this has changed into a brick and mortar farm stand where we do distribution, and now we're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 6 p.m. and Saturdays 9 to 1. And we also have 3 full-time seasonal employees. So that is the context for our farm. All right, so getting closer to the actual online ordering and how that works in our store. This is the home page of our website. We had 2 websites before this one that Dan built before I had really a lot of involvement in the farm. And then I built one in 2014 using WordPress.org, which this site is also through WordPress.org. But for this one, after Dan went full-time farming, we decided we needed some help with our website to make it really professional. So we went with Sumi Designs, 2 sisters in Lafayette. They were just fabulous to work with, continue to be fabulous to work with. I designed and sketched what I want, and they built it. So I don't know where everyone is at in their farming journey. If you are just starting out, I don't think you need someone to custom design your site, an online store. I would check out Barn to Door or Harvey for farm-specific storage systems, or Square or Shopkeep for systems that work for all kinds of retail but could also work for a farm. We chose this design and a custom design because we have multiple sales venues. And let's get into what those are. So what do we sell online? Our initial plan when we were doing our winter planning was that we would sell CSA shares and garlic in our online store. That would be in our public store. Privately, we also had a wholesale, like a fresh sheet that just our wholesale clients could access to place their orders and pay online. And then we also had a private farm stand page for our drop site customers. Last year we had 2 different locations for drop sites. This year we have 1 drop site location and with 3 spots. So because we've changed our whole system, we don't need a private link anymore, but that's originally what we had. So this, after COVID, was declared a pandemic and the government put out their precautions, we decided to add our farm stand and bedding plants to our online store. The plan had been to simply sell those through our brick and mortar farm stand for anyone who dropped in, but we changed it to order online and pick up through drive-through only. So we were having contactless pickup and people had already paid online. So what we're doing now that there are some restrictions have been lifted, we are and we were always considered an essential business, so we could have had our brick and mortar farm stand open, but we did not feel prepared to do that. So the way our system works now is you can just stop in, or you can order your produce online and pick up the same day or the next day. And I'm finding even I have some customers who place their order and everyone lives pretty close here. They beat me to the store before I can make up their order, and they would rather just pick out their own produce, but they wanted to pay for it all online ahead of time. So we're being pretty flexible with that. But I do say we do have customers who come from about 40 minutes away, and they, I think, really appreciate being able to order online, know their stuff will be ready to go, and know that it will be in stock and ready for them when they come. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the goals we had when we set up our store and the tools we use to make our store work for us. So goals, we wanted a pleasant, easy experience for the customer. I'm sure, anyone who shopped online, you want it to be quick and efficient and aesthetically pleasing. So those were things we were aiming for. And then we wanted it to be secure because we're dealing with people's money and information. And we wanted efficiency and ease for me, who's running it. So those were our goals. Over here, this picture is an image of the back end of our store in a WordPress.org site. So that is our primary tool. We use a WordPress.org site. And this is my dashboard over here, and then you can see the back end of what the products look like in the store. So I will say again, my system is customized. I kind of cobbled it together over the years as I learned new things. So I'm going to show you, just quickly talk about each of these tools in order that I started using them. So the WordPress.org site was first, and you can also create a WordPress.com site, but the .org gives you much more freedom in how to customize things. So that's what I went with. I should put QuickBooks was next. That's our accounting system. And then I use ConvertKit for my email service provider. So that's how I tag all my customers and send them the appropriate emails for their needs and for what I want to tell them about. WooCommerce is the name of the store that we use, the e-commerce function. And that is specifically used with WordPress.org, from what I understand. And our processor is called Stripe. So they're the actual money processor. Oops. That's not what I'm gonna do either. Sorry about that, you guys. All right, let's bring that back up. So in order to make it easy for me to use my online store and not have to do all kinds of accounting stuff on the back end, I purchased a plugin called, or a system called MyWorks, and you see that up here, MyWorks Sync, and that goes with QuickBooks. So whenever somebody orders something and pays for it online, whether it's PayPal or credit card, it goes right into my QuickBooks. My inventory is connected, my products are connected. I can print my packing slip right from QuickBooks. And that has saved me so much time. MyWorks bundles the transactions, so when you're balancing your checkbook, that makes it really easy to find all the transactions from one day in one place. So that has been well worth it. And then my final tool is ongoing tech support. So I've continued my relationship with Sumi Designs in Lafayette. They do have monthly support you can pay for. I pay for just consulting as needed. And there are problems that come up with the store, often. I've had 2 this past week, and one didn't make any sense, and they helped me fix it. The other one, she just sent me a tutorial on it, and yeah, I pay for this support, and it is so well worth it. They respond very quickly and very personably. So unless you have a great tech background, it's really important, if you're going to do an online store, that you have support that comes with it. And I think that the companies I named earlier, Barn to Door, Harvey, Square, and Shopkeep, do have support too if you don't customize your site that way. So, or if you don't want to, you want to go with something already in place. All right. Then wanted to just say real quick about my advertising. Obviously, advertising is a huge, huge subject, but like, how do we specifically, advertise that we're here and that online orders are something we do? We use Facebook and Instagram, Google Ads, and Google My Business. And I just do the same post there on all those forums. So I'm creating one post I'm using in multiple places. And I do some paid ads through Facebook, Instagram, and Google Ads, but I don't overdo that, in my opinion. All right, we also have a roadside sign. The road sign does not announce that we do online ordering, but it can direct people to our website or our physical business. Clearly, we have the website I've talked about, and then we use email for advertising and keeping our customers up to date as well. And then, for instance, you can see my sample post over here I shared. Every Monday, I post on Facebook, Instagram, and Google My Business. I post what will be available in our farm stand for the week. And that also goes out in email with instructions for how to order and how it works. It's just a repeat for people, so because a lot of times I'll say to people when they come in, oh, how did you hear about us? Or do you want me to add you to my email list, and some will say, well, I just look at you every week on social media. So meeting people where they're at, having multiple venues for advertising is really important. And then how do I do it? I use positivity and education. I feel like there's been a lot of fear with COVID, and I think as a farm, it's easy to prey on that, and we deliberately have not done that. And I think that the customers react much more positively to that in the long run. So we're honest with them, and we, ask for social distancing and mask wearing and sanitizing the hands. But we don't go into like creating food from sources other than our own. We just let our customers enjoy our food and tell them all the good things about it and make their own judgment. Another incredible source over the past couple years to me has been Corinna Bench of Shared Legacy Farms. You can find her at Shared Legacy Farms, and she has a CSA marketing discussion group in Facebook. I just followed her stuff step by step, and incredible teacher, really helped us consolidate our messaging and figure out even what we needed to know before we built a website and how to advertise our store. We use content creation. I write content creation for our farm blog, and this connects with my next point, that balance of asking and giving. So if you're advertising your farm, your online farm store every day, this is what we have. Come visit us. Come buy from us. That can be very exhausting to the customer. You do want to make sure they know what you have available, but you also want to be giving back instead of always asking them to do something. So this spring, some of the posts that I shared were like our ultimate guide to a successful kitchen garden, a spring veggie storage guide, an eating guide to spring veggies and greens, and then different recipes, so that hopefully I'm educating and inspiring people to come shop with us instead of just constantly asking them to come shop with us. And in those posts, if I share a blog post, sometimes I'll say, come get these veggies from our farm stand, and sometimes I won't say anything at all about it. And then the last point, always consider the experience through your customer's eyes and the advertising through your customer's eyes, and making it about your customer and their relationship to your farm more than about you. So it's like this balance of telling your story, but making your customer the hero of the story. And Corinna goes into that in much more detail. Corinna Bench does that concept. So those are some of my goals and tools. If you are considering creating an online store, these were some questions that we considered and I hope would be helpful before you go into it, or even as you refine what you're already doing. Number one, why do I want to sell online? And with that, does my current customer base require it? So for instance, when we went into this year, we also got a separate system to do point of sale on a tablet in our farm stand. And what we have found is that there are plenty of people who just want to pay cash check. They don't mind adding stuff up on their own. If there's a credit card, we can use it through a point of sale through QuickBooks, where they just call us out and we come do it. And so that system has changed from what we thought it would be. And we are going to be able to let go of another cost because our customers weren't demanding it, our current customers. They need to have a place to do credit cards, but they didn't need their own self-serve point of sale system, at least at this point. Probably, because of COVID, we didn't want everyone touching this tablet and having to go sanitize it all day either. So that was something that changed. And then secondly, does my potential ideal customer base require it? So what are your goals for your future customers? And will they operate the same way your current customers are, or do they need an online, a certain type of online store in order to come purchase from you? Number two, what do I want to sell online? If earlier I talked about all the different things we're selling online. It's not just CSA shares or just garlic or just this farm stand. It's all these things. So we ended up with a easily customizable store and site. If you're only selling one thing and you don't have all these different customer streams you're dealing with, you might be able to do something less complicated. And then finally, what kind of store and system do I need for an easy, pleasant, and secure customer experience and efficient use of my time? I know that for us, because Dan and I are able to divide and conquer in this way, I'm able to dedicate more of my time to our store and website than someone who is doing all the farming and all the marketing themselves. So that's definitely something you need to consider for your own personal situation. So yeah, I'd like to just open it up for questions, and I'll put my contact info here, and there we go. Does anyone have any questions?
Hey, Julie. First of all, I just want to say great presentation. And I wanted to ask you, what was the name of the company that you work with in Lafayette for your tech support?
That is Sumy Designs, SUMY. And I can, shoot you an email with their contact info if you can't find it, but they are really, you should be able to find them. They're a website design company, so.
Julie, this is Jessica. Thanks so much for your presentation. I was wondering if there were any challenges that you felt you guys faced when you first started moving to online sales that you could talk about a little bit.
Sure. Not only when we first started, but like even now, there are going to be technical glitches that unless you are a tech person, you constantly have to deal with. That has been my number one frustration. So for instance, on Monday, I send out my farm stand link, and then I get, a couple of emails from people. I can't use my credit card information. It won't let me enter it. At the same time, I can see I'm getting credit card orders, people who've paid for credit cards. And on my computer, I can't use a credit card either. And, I contacted WooCommerce, did not hear back from them. Granted, it was a holiday, but they're also a big company. So my next step the next day was to contact Sumy, and they got right back to me and helped me work through that, which was really great. Then my next issue this morning was I tried to have a, link just for our current members to sign up for Fall CSA. And that wasn't working because I didn't really know what I was doing. I tried it on my own. So I contacted Sumy, and right away she sent me a tutorial with a video for how to fix the issue. So for me personally, the biggest issue has been technical things. The second was the financial integrations. Before I had that MyWorks sync, I just had to manually enter all these orders, and it took so much time. And then it could lead to mistakes when I was doing the packing slip if I didn't enter the order correctly. So there was just so much room for error there. And the other point, like all of us, I don't want to be spending money unnecessarily. But Dan and I both were like, okay, so we're paying, $50 a month for this MyWorks sync. That is saving me so much time and energy, especially also, being the lead parent with the kids. So finding sources and tools that can do the things I can't do has been a way to overcome those challenges. Any other questions?
This is Jessica again. Having both a farm stand where people can drive up and pick up their own produce and having online orders, do you ever have issues with having things in stock or running, you know, because you're selling on a kind of two different platforms. How does that merge together and work for you?
Yes, that is a great question. And that is a challenge that I don't really know how to overcome at this point, because obviously if someone's paying with cash or check, there's no way, and you're not, you know, they're not putting it into a point of sale system. There's no way to track the inventory that way. So the way I've been doing that is I just keep a really close eye on things. And that is kind of a pain, but I think that now that we're getting into different crops, that will be less of an issue. So at this point, there's nothing, like, unless someone just came in and wiped us out, like someone bought, you know, like a couple, just everything in the cooler, which would be really unusual. It would be hard to get inventory back in the cooler, but we would have it here on the farm, if that makes sense. There's no crops that we're short of right now. And that's where I've talked to barn to door at different points throughout our journey here. And one of the things that we just talked about this spring, I was asking, do you have a point of sale system where the customer can basically check themselves out and, you know, it's connected to your online store and stuff? Because that was something, you know, where I would consider moving to that kind of system if it worked. And she said that aspect is in process. Like they're working on it. It's in beta, but it's not ready. And when I was looking for point of sale systems, you know, which would again solve the inventory integration problem, if it was easy for the customer to use, like no one really has that yet, but I'm hoping to see that in the future.
I have a question here. My name is Bobby. How are you doing? Thanks for the presentation, by the way. All right, so this year and stuff, I'm just starting my business, you know, so I'm starting my business and stuff, and I'm starting to sell plant online. But one of the first questions I have, how did you answer the why do I want to sell online question, and what was the main factor of how you answered that? You know, because just like you said, you're actually in charge of doing like the online services, and your husband is mainly the farmer, you know, and I'm the sole, you know, person and stuff that's really like starting my business right now and stuff, and I'm the only one that's actually doing the farming. You know, how would you answer that question of why do I want to sell online? Because it seems like it would be easier to reach your customers that way because everybody is online, everybody's like communicating online. But what is the main factor of how you answer that question that is it really worth it?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Initially, you know, 6 years ago when we chose to move our sales online, we felt it was the most efficient way for customers to sign up for their CSA share for us. Because at that point, our kids were much littler too. So even though I'm doing this as my component and Dan is doing the farming, time is still quite short. So it was a twofold thing. It was our customers. We thought it would make it easier for our customers to sign up, and we thought it would make it easier for us in the systems. So that was when we were running, I think we had like maybe 45 families in our CSA.
Okay.
And now, you know, what was happening before, and sometimes we had extra produce to sell then, but that wasn't online. So I would get all these emails from people. Can you set this aside? And we didn't have a brick and mortar store either. So that's when we started moving everything toward online, except for people who were stopping at the farm for distribution each week. I feel like that was kind of confusing how I answered that, but it came down to, for CSA shares, customers wanted it. We thought it would make it easier, and it did. And then for the farm stand itself, we just got our brick and mortar farm stand in place, like in May. So we're not even planning to do online sales for that, but because of COVID we did, and now we do anticipate keeping it because a certain segment of customers really does prefer to shop that way. It makes it much easier for them because that's what they're used to. And we, you know, we don't want to lose those customers, and we also want to bring in more people, and a lot of people do just shop online. It's what they're used to. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it sure did. And then another question I mean, I really have is, I mean, you answered that question very well, but as far as how long did you sell like your CSA, I would say probably like word of mouth, you know, before you got to the point and stuff where you started to sell online?
I think we did that for 2 years.
Okay. All right, so that definitely answers the question. I just want to see like the timeline that it would take and stuff. I mean, from initially like starting a business and then the next step and, you know, starting to sell things online, because I think it would be a little bit more efficient to do it online. But just like you said, I mean, it's very time consuming just to get everything together and to reach that point of, you know, you want to be more efficient, but I mean, are you really big enough to really like take the next step and stuff to start selling things online?
Well, and that's a, you know, that idea of, are you big enough even to make it worth your money? Like, and make it, because it, you know, every time there's a credit card transaction, there's a fee.
Yes.
And, you know, when you're first starting out, I mean, even later, but especially when you're first starting out, if you only have, you know, 10 or 20 people in your CSA, you could probably do that without needing to have an online store. Like, you could do that by just taking check and cash payments and talking to them. But as you're growing and trying to bring in new customers, especially if you're advertising online, that's when I think having an online store is really beneficial. Because if they're finding you on Facebook, chances are they're ready to click and buy, not click and write a check.
Cool. I got it. Thank
Yeah.
you. And I really appreciate your presentation. It really gave me a lot of insight.
Great, and good luck with your farm.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, Julie, I had a question about the your social media planning and kind of your the way you mentioned about kind of scheduling time to do that, and kind of the way you framed it about making the customer the champion and those kinds of things. Is your perspective on that? I'm curious if you would be interested if you'd be willing to kind of expand on kind of how you've learned those things, which twists and turns, how you've kind of evolved with your you know, integration with that, and any kind of mistakes you've made along the way that you felt like that, or if you made any. I'd just be curious to hear your story, your story on that, and kind of how you've learned those various aspects.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. The way I really started to dig into the actual marketing was after hearing a Farmer to Farmer podcast with Corinna Bench of Shared Legacy Farm, and taking her advice to heart. And so I spent the winter of, I think it was 2017 and 2018, walking through her entire process of how to identify your ideal customer avatar, how to create a value ladder, a lot of like marketing things I had never studied. I was an English education major and used to teach high school English before all this. So as I was going through this, all the reading, one of the sources she had was about Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, and using that, you know, customer as the hero concept in marketing. And that's when things clicked for me, because I'm like, oh, this is narrative. Like, this is a story, and I am the guide and my customer is the hero. So I think up until that point, I was probably talking more about my farm and less about how my customer related to the farm than needed. So the way I changed things as I went through her stuff was I used some of her tools. Donald Miller's Story Brand was one of them, to create my own messaging and understand what is the clear messaging from my farm from our farm, what are we selling? And what is the language I'm going to use to consistently communicate that on my website, in my emails, on social media, across all these venues. And then along with that, I created a private CSA member group and focused a lot on education there and making sure my customers knew how to use their vegetables and felt successful doing that. So again, they're the hero. I'm just a guide explaining how to use your produce and giving ideas and facilitating communication amongst the customers. So I would say, yeah, my biggest early mistake was not knowing what I was doing. Of course, you have to jump into this, whether you know what you're doing or not. You have to tell people about your produce. But her tools helped me clarify my message so much. And then I actually ended up getting excited about marketing and advertising. Before that, I just hated it. I just felt like somebody trying to sell somebody something, and it felt so sleazy to me. Even though we were selling really good vegetables, I hated feeling salesy, and she even has a training on that concept. So I would start with her stuff as a way to just dig in. I don't know if I would, depending on what your role is on the farm, I don't think I would start doing that right now. I would use it as a winter project, but if you have time and energy, you could certainly start the process.
Thanks for sharing your perspective on that. I feel like that, even just what you described, devoting a couple of winters to that, sounds pretty normal. It takes some time to learn those different wrinkles to that. And I think that oftentimes I'm talking to farmers who are looking to get that insight in a weekend, or taking, participating in a handful of webinars. And I think with just what you mentioned, it can take time and to really figure that out and learn that process. So I appreciate you sharing all that. It's very helpful.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I will say it took a lot of time, and it was painful at times because you're trying to take your entire farm and who you are and put it in like 5 or 6 words. And that is very hard, and it takes a lot of thinking time, which the winter can be good for. Any other questions?
Well, if that's all the questions we have today, I want to thank everybody for spending your lunch hour with us, especially Julie for your presentation and all your insight to these great topics. We really appreciate it. Again, I'm Jessica with the Hoosier Young Farmers Coalition. You can find us online at HoosierYFC.org, and you can see we're doing 7 more of these over the next 4 weeks with different farmers from around the great state of Indiana. So tune in whenever you are available. We'd love to have you be a part of our webinars. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.